Mind if I say what would you say men are better at than women?
Um, I don't know.
You retired too?
Not me. I'm in my prime.
Hey team, how we going? Welcome to episode 3 of No Safe Space, where no topic is safe from scrutiny. Coming to you today is 3 topics from 3 people, and today we're going to be starting off with Dean. Dean, let's go ahead and let's get on it. What's today's topic from Dean today?
Well, thanks, Ed and Loren. Looking beautiful as per usual. And I'm going to quickly start off by saying that not one person's joined my team. And my call out today goes to Daz, the most loyal guy of the channel, and Bailey's hat. And of course, Coca-Cola. The topic I want to talk about today is a very important one. And it's actually one of the reasons why we started this series in the first place. And that is, should we talk more about politics and religion? And if not, why not? Because at the end of the day, I feel like being armed, informed, gives you actually some more ability when it comes to throwing your vote at a problem by offering a solution, not just a whinge at a topic. And also, I'm clearly bored as hell of talking at barbecues, weddings, etc., about boring topics such as the footy team you go for that hasn't won a game this season. You can't talk for hours on end on that. We have so much happening in this world. The politics and the religion, if neither one is religious, that's fine. Not spiritual, that's fine. But politics, geopolitical opinions on topics, it's very important to understand. And it's also great to set parameters so you actually understand that people's personalities are normally tied to one of the two party systems, whether it be from infamy, empathy, or whether it be conservative values, etc. You need to understand the people you're talking about so you can have a conversation with them and not end up either one alienating yourself, but also understanding what you're dealing with when you have conversations with people. And some topics you cannot and maybe shouldn't try and win with. I think maybe that's a problem. If you try to win a conversation, then it's doomed to destroy your friendship from the starters. Okay, maybe if we spoke more about these topics, the biggest loser in this, who do you reckon it'd be, Ed? The biggest loser if we talk more about religion and politics?
As you were talking that topic, I would say that it'd have to be the group. It depends on the group that you're in. I go to coffee every day with a group of fellows, and all of us but one are one way politically, and we have that one guy that's not. And well, there's two. That one guy that's not is way out there, and exact opposite of kind of pretty much what everybody else says. And it it's not that it gets heated because everybody in the group is old enough to know that we're past that point. There's no reason for us to get angry about it here because there's nothing that we're accomplishing by bringing out that anger. Is being the right group that is mature enough to handle that kind of conversation, understand your views can be your views. That's okay. And especially in my case, in that kind of what I spent my life doing was providing you with the opportunity to have those views. So have those views. I'm not here to pick and choose to say what views I'm allowing you to have by serving my
That's
country.
true. But I think what I'm getting at is that if you don't have these conversations, the big winner every single time is the politicians. If you know nothing about politics and you know nothing about religion, but you still get a vote, that makes you very easy to become a useful idiot. Now, I don't expect everyone to be into this because not everyone has a sheepdog's philosophy. Not everyone is red-pilled. Not everyone cares. There's some people that are going, that's fine.
Loren, what's Lauren's 2 cents there?
I'll get there in a second because I've got another subject I'll be talking about in another day following up with this, and that is who should be allowed to vote. The danger in Australia is it's compulsory, which means there's a lot of useful idiots get to go in there and can swing a nationals elections and a country's future if they are stimulated in the right direction. So, Loren, politics and religion, fantastic subjects.
Yeah, I
The
think so
wrong
too.
people don't talk about it. What's your thoughts?
I think we're robbing the next generations if we don't talk about these things. I think they're not going to get the secondhand wisdom that you get from hearing conversations from older people. I think if we can't talk about these things, we'll just become totally subservient to, like you said, politicians with agendas. I think it's very dangerous for people not to talk about things, because how will we ever? I've changed my mind so many times from having conversations with people who've enlightened me to things that I just didn't know, or a way to look at something that I hadn't seen before. And if we can't have those discussions, I would have been robbed of that education.
Yeah. I think one of the best rolling examples of talking about politics and religion and topics that are bipolar is one, well, Louder with Crowder is the one I'm talking about, where he actually went to a university in the USA during the difficult times where it was still is way too left, which is different to being liberal. We're all libertarians. We go overseas, we join the military because we want liberty and freedom for all, smaller government, more rights. But when he speaks to people the first time, and it was all about change my mind, at first it was crazy. It was a frenzy. But then the second time he went back, there were still some outliers that went insane, crazy, brown paper bag, straight off the reservation.
Whoa there.
But it wasn't as loud. The third time he went back, fourth time, fifth time, sixth time, what it actually ended up happening was it settled down and now became a conversation. Now when he turns up, people are like, can I speak? Of course you can, if you think you can change my mind, but this is not a platform to grandstand.
Yep.
Ultimately, it is a way where as you would call them, some people call them boomers. This is where you would find that there is a level of expertise, of knowledge and wisdom out there that is a blessing for you.
Yep.
If you speak to these people about politics, about religion, about history, about philosophy, you name the subject. It is an education, a free education via communication that will open circles. If you can speak about geopolitical situations, if you, without yelling, or religion,
then
or
it's not a
topics,
conversation.
well, it's a passport into conversations you would never normally be a part of.
Exactly. If someone starts yelling or like just using foul language or insulting, it's no longer a conversation.
Yep.
That's especially when they start the insulting, when they say, well, that's stupid, or that's the dumbest thing I've heard. I'm not,
they've run out of words. Yeah.
They're just they don't have respect for the person they're talking to.
Yeah.
But we have created an easy out these days where we say, that's just your opinion. It's my opinion. You go, no, that's not true. It's very, very rarely a level game of tennis back and forth over the net. Normally there's one person's educated, one person is not, one person is sheltered, one person is not. I've learned a lot from not realizing I was on the losing side of the net many times, changed my opinion. So when I converse with someone now about religion, about politics, etc., I can't even name all the sources because there's so many. Some of those sources might be someone I spoke to that had been to World War II or Korea. Some of those might be from Madame Cas, who runs an orphanage in Central Africa.
Mm-hmm.
My sources are impossible to list, but by being wrong so many times, it's filtered me towards having a message that is more in line and in sync with common sense over 100 years of practical wisdom and mentoring and having big ears open for listening as well as talking. So I think absolutely you should encourage it. The first time you have a debate with someone, you might find that it goes heated, but the second time it won't be as bad. The third time will not be as bad. You know what? I find a lot of people will actually come back to you later and then they'll bring up that point, even though they might have been the one that said, we can't talk about this. They'll actually come back to you later and go, okay, what about that?
Yeah.
And there's a word that both of you used in speaking. Both of you said, change my mind. Loren said, and Dean said, you've changed your opinion.
Yeah.
And that's something too, that when you over here in our politics, you'll hear, one side accuse the other of being a flip-flopper. But when you actually dig down into it, they weren't flip-flopping on their beliefs. Maybe they have evolved maybe they've learned more on the subject.
Exactly.
Maybe they did talk to somebody a bit
Yep.
more educated on the subject and then learn
Respect
something.
them for being
I
able
find-
to be fluid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
I find
maturity
it to be acceptable.
and wisdom.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, there's nothing stupider than thinking you know everything.
One of the biggest, and this is my last point before I finish off there, Ed. One of my biggest points is, you know, people try to talk about sources, statistics. We always talk about that sort of stuff, don't we, Loren? I never learnt more than what I did by actually living life and being in a foreign country that is not a land of plenty, and seeing what they don't have and realizing how lucky we are, but don't realize it. And our politicians will always live high on the hog until the people that vote for them actually hold them to account.
Yep. I agree.
Can't do that through education. You won't learn that at school.
Yep.
That's me, I'm done.
Good topic. Moving on. All right, we're going to push on up to Miss Loren. Miss Loren, we're going to have your topic. Go ahead.
Yeah, Dean's topic and my topic actually are pretty much the same thing. But again, you know, I like to look through the weird news and stuff that's going on the internet. And I found a couple of stories from the UK, and they have a bunch of lawyers that are trying to get this. They have an offence in the UK called the stirring up division offence. And that's what they cover their hate crimes under. So if you're talking about religion or politics and that in public places, you can't do that. That's hate crime. And it's from these stirring up division offences. Well, these group of lawyers want to extend it to include your own home and private residences, meaning that if you have a heated discussion over the dinner table with someone, you could be charged with a hate crime. So I have the actual things if you'd like to see them. Oh, the host needs to allow me to share screens.
I grant you that access. I consent.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hashtag me too.
Okay. Yeah. This is from the Scottish Sun. And they're saying dinner crime, talking about race, religion, or sex over the dinner table at home could become a hate crime. The Law Commission claims that the offence of stirring up division should be extended into private homes. According to the Daily Mail, the Commission has drawn up a 500-page consultation report, which will be presented to ministers next year, which may be this year now, I think. And it says that in England and Wales, hate speech is only classed as an offence when committed in public or in a private place where it can be heard from outside. The submission document notes that hate crimes have an exemption if the alleged offences takes place in a home and cannot be seen or heard outside that or another dwelling. But it claims to the extent that the aim is to ensure that the criminal law does not intrude on purely private matters, the exception is poorly targeted. This doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, because we make an awful lot of bad jokes in my family. And that now means that if somebody took exception to that.
My 2 cents on that is this, is that the moment when we start labeling words that we can't say, in accordance with the last round table that we had, you know, you'll always hear the person say, well, if we do that, then the next step, they're going to do this.
Yeah.
And then the other party's like, nuh-uh. Here we go. You start eliminating these words. Next, you're going to want to come in my home and do it. Nuh-uh. And that quoted is saying, soon be extended to, could be soon extended inside the private residence. So that's just proof to me that when you give an inch, they take a mile, so to speak, or kilometer, whatever you guys do over there.
Yep. And it includes like protecting, it says, subcultures. Like you won't be able to make a joke about goths, punks, anyone with a sexual fetish, vegans and climate change activists are looking at being included in it. So we won't be able to make vegan jokes or anything like that anymore. This is only the UK, but what bothers me is that when a precedent like this is set, you know, people can jump on it.
Do you know what I thought of straight away when you started talking about that? Because I don't want to actually say the country involved was Anne Frank's diary.
Yeah.
That was when the brown shirts, etc., were the way that they got compliance, and this happens as well in some other countries, or the red corn chip, etc., is that you cause division within the family's home, and that's when you have capitulation.
Yep.
And that's when you can completely go on with the next step of your plan.
Mhm.
You
That's
know,
exactly right.
I
You know what it
thought-
made me think of?
What's
George
that?
Orwell and 1984 and the Thought Police. That's what it made me think of, with
Yep.
everyone dobbing each other in, like mothers and fathers and kids dobbing each other in.
Start putting incentives to it. Hey,
Mm.
if don't be afraid of someone in your family, because we'll reward you and protect you if you have something to say.
Yeah,
The-
exactly.
These are freaks that are highlighting that they're a freak. And if they're doing this from an institution of knowledge, they should lose their job. If they're saying this on the line for everyone to hear, what are they saying to their trainees, their students, that they're actually holding the red pen over, if they're allowed to do that anymore,
This
and
isn't even
keeping their
professors.
scores? Yeah.
Yeah, this is the law commission. So these are the lawyers who, want bills passed and things.
And lawyers are scumbags.
Yeah.
It says that your lawmakers are really bored.
Mhm.
They need to look at the real problems. It's not like the UK doesn't have real problems.
And that's not it's not a harmless. We keep thinking that these ridiculous topics are Hail Mary attempts by someone who normally is on the left or has an agenda
Yeah.
to give themselves a platform. But when you add that to another 30 or 40 different claims, it gets hard to be the goalkeeper to stop them all. And then once they get one in, there's another one, there's another one. Before you know it, there's actually a enclave of stupid ideas that gets bigger and bigger and becomes a tribe, a clan, a movement, where the disenfranchised actually have somewhere to go. And then that's where chaos begins.
Yeah, exactly. It's your home is not your castle anymore if this happens.
We saw that
Like a lot
with
of
that
people in
lovely
the hurry.
US couple that owned more money than some countries when they would defend their own property with what looked like a pathetic pistol and a Mark 9 M16. You know, when they actually had a crowd in their front yard saying,
Yeah.
we're going to get yous. And they were the ones that got convicted. You go and do it.
Come on, man.
If I'm going to go down for the crime, I might as well be guilty, I reckon.
It's insanity.
You
Yeah, I'd
shoot
make sure you had money on your card.
I just shoot the one with the camera first.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, this is coming from countries where I hope there is a resistance to that, or common sense from a minister that goes, absolutely, but does it not get it allowed in the first time, but then not quite allowed in the second time, and then it gets brought in at 1 o'clock in the morning in the council chambers by someone who says, I can leverage this?
Yeah, all you need is a struggling political party and an election coming up, and they think, I know how we can get that last little bit of votes. I know how we can get the favor of these last little people. We'll say we'll do this.
You know what one of the weird things is, Loren, with what you brought up there, and we're very guilty of it in Australia. Australia doesn't vote for a single one of their laws.
No.
So you don't get to choose. You get to fight for it. You get to die for it. You pay tax for it, but you don't get to decide any of them based on people that I don't know how on the $200,000 are worth $15 million. You're going,
Yeah.
you're not it doesn't make sense, you know.
Yeah, it's scary. That one was actually kind of scary to me. I thought, no, you can keep out of my home and I'll make as many vegan jokes as I want.
One's a child, one's an adult, quite often. Yeah, I don't know.
Because at what point does it stop?
That's the thing.
Yeah, and then what word? And then when drug in the court, did you use these words? Well, yes, but no, that's enough, because that's how lawyers do. Did you say this word? Well,
Yep.
Yes. And so that 15-year-old kid that got his Xbox taken away is calling up the Gestapo.
Yep.
saying, I heard my mom say vegetarians suck.
Yep. Yep.
Good luck when you're in a prison shower trying to look like you can look after yourself, and what are you in for? This, that, the other. What are you in for? Hate speech, man. Yeah. They're going to go.
That's what I mean.
They're going to go pick up the soap, son.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Well, that's my subject.
Notice how we're a bit both gobsmacked by it. Just
Because it
And
goes
we-
against common sense.
well, that
Yeah.
I've been around the country, around my own country. I've been around the world to where countries that have big problems, that's nowhere near
Yeah.
anywhere near their discussion.
No.
Is those kinds of things, and they have bigger problems to work on, and that's not an issue. It's not an issue until
Yeah.
you start solving some of your other things, and I think we're out of boredom.
I got to tell you, I love this series. When we've got 10,
Yeah,
20,
same.
30 episodes up, and when people can make reference to what we're saying in episode 2, I'm going to love it. This
Yeah.
is a
We're currently
necessary
watching
series.
episode 3.
Yes.
This is a necessary
Yeah.
series, but it's
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And
For
later
sure.
on, we'll have somebody down there beside Cas giving us a couple cents worth, maybe. Yeah.
all they're going to do is write registered question, who their
That's
team
it.
is, and then what they want, and we're on it. But I'm only covering subjects if you're Team Cas. Otherwise, you can go back to your reservations.
Is he
I'll go have
governing
a
our
picnic.
speech? I think he's governing our speech.
Yeah, I think he is.
He's limiting people from saying Team Loren and Team Ed.
No,
I know.
I'm just going to build a wall on the other side.
Copycat.
Go. What's yours, Ed?
Okay. All right. My subject.
We choose truth over facts.
Not necessarily women in combat, but women in combat arms jobs. Over here was a big deal about letting women. They kept using this line over here, and I would get so frustrated watching my news. They still don't allow women on the front lines, and I'm sitting here thinking, what front lines? This isn't World War II. We don't have front lines. And I'm going to say right now that in the U.S. Army, in the Echo Company, 1st of the 50 Deuce, 101st Airborne Division, we had female truck drivers and a large number of them. So when supplies needed to be taken from patrol base to patrol base to patrol base, that was their job, was to get in a convoy with other people and drive these trucks. And that consisted of a driver, a gunner, somebody sitting in the passenger seat that we refer to as the TC, navigate to and from that patrol base, or FOB as you want to call it, having a gunner up there pulling sectors of fire, because there was no front line. The enemy was around you on all sides. So this big push about letting women into combat arms, I couldn't understand the hatred coming out on this subject, because it's like they're already there.
Yeah.
Well, they're not allowed in the infantry. Okay, let them in the infantry. And the people who are pushing this aren't the people that's in there that can
Yeah.
think about just logistically, the problems it causes. Bathrooms. What do you do? I sat on top of a bridge for 3 days in a truck and had to guard it from people putting IED. We spread out along a route, and we literally sat in the truck for 3 days, taking turns on the gun, sitting there. And we literally had to utilize the restroom anywhere that we could, which was generally beside the truck. And just being a lady, that's got to be awfully hard to do that in the lady truck drivers didn't have that mission. They had their mission.
Yep.
They had enemy all around. They had their 50 caliber machine gun. At one point, I was at a patrol base that was so small, they were bringing our food into us. It's called the JS Bridge. And I remember I'd broken a part of my helmet, and I did radioed back. I needed a new piece. And I happened to look up at the helicopter as it was bringing our food in one night. And it was one of the young ladies, and she's like, Sergeant Bennett. And she's pointing. I'm like, what is she pointing at? And she had a helmet for me. And, the helicopter there was hovering, and she threw the helmet out to me, and I caught it. And before I walked away, she was telling me, look in the helmet. Because back then I used to chew tobacco to stay awake and whatnot. And I looked in the helmet. Well, I had gone on my mid-tour leave, and a bunch of soldiers go at once, and she was also mid-tour leave same time as I was. So we both left Iraq together, come here to Fort Campbell, went home, then met back up, and then went back to Iraq. But she knew I chewed. And when she had dropped my helmet to me out there in the middle of nowhere, I looked down in there, and there was 2 pouches of Red Man chewing tobacco in it. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Can't say that anymore.
She's flying in the helicopter
Yeah.
out there. So
Yeah,
the
exactly.
push to let females in the combat arms MOSs. And I didn't know this until I seen a news article. This is what prompted me about this. Was the first female special forces soldier has an accidental discharge 5 months after earning her Green Beret. I didn't even know there's a female Green Beret. So of course it made me go looking for it, and then come to find out she ended up being a National Guardsman. So to me, I think that's a little misleading. But first female Green Beret faces minor misdemeanor charge for accidentally firing a gun, and it had to do with a pistol inside of her private residence. And this is just this year here. This story is from December 2020. She in July, her identity is being kept secret. Graduated from a grueling 53-week Special Forces course at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, being the first woman to earn the Special Forces tab and coveted Green Beret. And not saying that because she's a lady that she had an accidental discharge. I've been around soldiers that have accidental discharges. It could happen if you just don't pay attention, or extreme fatigue, I guess, having anybody. But that just brought me to mind about the women in combat, women on the front line. And I'm like, and then the other thing that I heard that perturbed me was, besides women should be allowed on the front line, they're already there. You don't know what you're talking about, so you shouldn't be allowed to speak. But it caused a whole movement that changed into women in the infantry, women in special forces, women in the Navy SEALs, because women on the front line, from people who don't know what they're talking about. So people they just don't know. Women going to Ranger School, because before they were allowed into other units, then it became, well, women can't go to Ranger School. Okay, now they can go to Ranger School. Well, women are allowed to go to Ranger School, but they're still not allowed to be in the Ranger Battalion. And that's coming from somebody who doesn't know. Just because somebody goes to Ranger School doesn't mean they need to be in a Ranger Battalion at all. That's like me going and taking a CPR course and then going, I took CPR and they still don't let me ride on the ambulance. One of them is an everyday job. One of them is a school. And people don't understand the difference. But it's enough because of social media today to cause that wave. The majority does what I call the norm becomes a standard. And the norm is this many people talk it, so it must be true. So it becomes a standard.
Yep.
There's my 2 cents. Any thoughts?
Do you want to go Loren first then?
Yeah, Loren, what do you think?
One?
Lauren,
Well,
what do
I'd
you
be
think?
more interested to hear what you've got to say, Cas, because the only thing I have to say is that I totally agree. The logistics, for a start, no one can go anywhere till they've figured that out. And apart from that, it's kind of offensive to all the women who are on the, what they call the front line, out there in danger, to think that they're not equal because they're not being infantry rangers, whatever. That's offensive. They're doing their job. They're in danger. They're in harm's way.
Absolutely.
I've
lost a few of them too.
I've got a few opinions on this, and having been also at the School of Infantry as an instructor on many occasions, and being with females on operations, being around civilian conversations, politics and religion. When people ask me about the front line, I remind people, just because the front line is not outside the wire. The front line is normally instigated by warfighting soldiers, infantry, cavalry that are actually looking for the fight. It's normally, and it starts 1 meter in front of combat seeking forces. It can come and visit anyone from any position. As a matter of fact, in asymmetric warfare, that's perfect. The last thing you want to do is go and fight with the sheepdog when you can stuff around with the foxhound, which is still infantry in Australia. So I believe the front line is completely different to just being in the country. When you're looking for the fight, okay, it will come to you. So that's different. When it comes to females in infantry, the only people that I'll listen to, I will not listen to officers, because they don't train people. They are the executive branch. They are the ones there for political means that may not even have the the courage or acumen to say no to their boss because it might affect their career, I will absolutely speak up, because I'm the one that has to deliver the capability to the mission, to the officer, so that when he says be there, give that capability, give that effect. But you've just made me, because of double standards, with female standard required with male's fitness standard, that I've got to say apologetically, but because you have actually now put a female into my organisation, we are not specialists in Australia. You have to do every single job. So if a female says that I want to go to infantry, I would simply go, if you're willing to come here and you're willing to try that, accept it, but you'll do it only under male levels of fitness, etc., and capability. But you also need to understand you're going to do every job. You're going to carry the gun, and you can't just trade it off. You cannot
It's part
quit.
of the job.
Yeah. So if you're a politician or a civilian or a group or an officer, you need to shut your pie hole. You do not have any say, any opinion, and I don't care if you're offended. As a matter of fact, I'll laugh in your face, because I'm the guy that carries the gun, and I'm the guy that actually arms people and then hands my name off on a soldier to a battalion and says, you can tell them who trained you, who instructed you. And I will not do that if the books are cooked, or if I believe, and they are getting cooked. You know, I've seen what used to be a Skippy badge had to be earned. And now every single obstacle, for example, part of hardcore used to be compulsory. You get through it, or the next day you're coming in. And if you don't get over it then while you're sore, blistered, delayed onset muscle soreness, you know, and scared, then you're not going to infantry. So you have to be prepared and understand sometimes the hardest thing you're going to do in your military career is the training and the qualification, not facing the wolf on the battlefield. It's as, you know, you can't afford to pepper pot around this. It needs to be met with aggression and understand that the battlefield's a real thing, and you never know when it comes to you.
Yeah, when you say, you know, you got to do every job, people who aren't there, people who don't go, they don't know. They think infantry. They don't understand that in the infantry, in the American infantry, I have a rifleman, a grenadier.
Yep.
I have a saw gunner or mini-my.
That's right.
Whatever you call it. We have a squad designated marksman. We have, and all of these are organic to a platoon. I have my machine gunner. That machine gunner has two men that are beside, or two people that are beside him.
Yep.
One of them is an ammo bearer, and one of them is the assistant gunner. That's because the machine gunner carries the gun and a little bit of starting ammo. The other person carries a big metal tripod that they got to run up and slap down on the ground to get the legs locked open, and carry what we call the traverse and elevation mechanism and get it ready to lock on, while that machine gunner can then lock that gun on top of that tripod, and the assistant gunner gets up there and starts pulling out all this ammunition and starts linking those belts together. That's not a light job. And you have to do each of those jobs. You need to be the ammo bearer. You need to be the machine gunner. You need to be the grenadier who wears a vest full of 40 millimeter grenades.
Yep.
You need to be the mini-my gunner who now carries 200 round drums of ammunition, one slung over the left, one slung over the right, one of them on the gun, then it falls off and makes that noise as it goes to the ground that we've all heard before. Because it's a plastic box, Loren, and it breaks off the gun and falls down, and all the ammo comes out in a big line. You need to do all those jobs so that when you become the team leader, then you know how to direct your fire team, which consists of that mini-my gunner, that grenadier, if you're not it, and that rifleman. When you become the squad leader, so that you can direct two team leaders. So you have to do each of those jobs. So when you become the platoon sergeant, then you can direct that machine gun team, know their capabilities. So absolutely. And the problem becomes that when you have these young gents that are in here, and you tell him,
2 minutes.
well, yep, thank you. Smith, you're going to be on the gun, and Jones, you're going to do this. Why isn't she going to be on the gun? Or see, it kind of goes both ways. So you're not putting her on the gun because she's a woman, or you put me on the gun just because I'm a woman. You want to see me struggle. No, you got to do every job in the infantry, but people who don't know are the ones who push those narratives.
Yep.
And that's the problem, is if you want to know the truth about something, go just pick an infantry unit, 101st Airborne Division, 1st Brigade, give me 1st Battalion, Bravo Company, 2nd Platoon, 3rd Squad. Let me talk to squad leader. That takes you all the way down that echelon, and you go talk to that young man that's got his boots on the ground, and ask them the questions.
Yep.
Because they're the ones that do it. When the generals come, when the high NCOs come to inspect, they're being shown what they want to see. Because if not, heads will roll. So there we go with a minute left. No safe space. Dean, go ahead for the closer, I guess.
I was going to say, Loren never got actually to speak on that last topic.
Oh,
No,
sorry,
I
Lauren.
didn't have anything to say. I was actually enjoying just listening because you sort of know how I feel about it, Dean, and you guys are the ones who are qualified to comment on it. I don't want to do any of those jobs. I might break a nail. So, you know, it doesn't interest me one bit.
We still
You
need
might
you on
start
that wall.
crying.
Yeah, I would. I cry all the time.
It's on your shirt, we know.
I don't. Men look stupid when we cry. We look. Yep. In closing, just remember that out of the 100% of men, operational warriors that go for special forces, think I can absolutely do this, 10% make it. So when you think a civilian can make this in our job, our role, just remember 90% of us don't make it to where we want to go.
Yeah. And say what you want in your home.
And this is the place you can come to that you should give us your ideas. Let us do this. Don't think of it as 1 video, 2 videos, 3 videos. Think of this when it's 100 videos and your say is there. Okay,
You retired too?
Not me. I'm in my prime.
I can think of a lot of things. I'm just shocked. 'Cause usually I would think dudes would just be like, yeah, bro, like sports, lifting heavy shit, making war, diplomacy, inventions. I mean, there's a lot of men are pretty much, you know, inventing Western civilization. We pretty much did most of that stuff.